Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Largely Mediocre Gaming. This is Lumper, here to bring you some more Kerbal Space Program with wacky inventions and crazy contraptions and weird rockets, I think was the title I used earlier. So today, 3 things to show you. 3? 2? A number of things, anyway, that is more than one. So, first off is no, it's 2 things, right. So the first thing I want to show today is actually a neat little glitch that lets you build really cool stuff. So the basic premise is quite simple. I'm going to build I'm just going to use a remote guidance unit, just a little one. Then go to structural, get one of these adapters. You can actually do a similar trick using the bigger pod, which is this one, the RC-LO1, and the larger structural adapter, which is it's called the Rockamax adapter. There we go. So if I show you the same thing, plump on in the same way, you can do that, but we're just going to do a small one. So little guidance thing, and then this adapter. You can then stick another adapter on the bottom if so you want, but the point of this is that you can now embed lots and lots and lots of things into this little sandwich here, and I'm going to show you briefly the idea. So for example, if I take this toroidal fuel tank, now this is very small, it has very little use normally because it only holds 10 fuel, and like for reference, even like the smallest tank holds here, like holds 45. This one holds 2,800 if like getting out of the atmosphere. So normally this finds very, very little use, the toroidal fuel tank. So called, by the way, because it's a donut shape, in case anyone's wondering. But now that I've got this little sandwich shape set up, what I can do is keep putting in more of these, stacking them in the same place, like so. Now the reason this glitch works is because everything in Kerbal Space Program has 2 points of connectivity. If you see here, when I grab it, there's actually 2 little spheres. Maybe a bit more obvious from a different angle. Those spheres each represent a point where it can connect to another object. Now what we're doing here is layering over more and more these fuel tanks, and each time you put one down, it uses up one of the connecting points on the previous one, and then its own becomes available for use by the next one. That's why I have to keep alternating between putting them down with my mouse on the little saucer area here, and then putting them down by clicking on the fuel tank itself. As far as I can tell, that's why this glitch works. Now doing that, you can just keep stacking in loads and loads of resources into these tanks and just make them as massive as you want, and yet keep quite a small sort of dinky looking craft. Another idea that I've used is you do this again, and then under utility you can use ion containers and just drag them down, plonk them inside, and the same idea applies. You just keep doing this again and again. It's a bit harder with the ion containers because you sort of have to fiddle around with positions and things. My voice is really off today, so I'm kind of tired. It's quite late in the day. So yeah, that's the idea. You can keep plonking in more and more and more resources, and it just stacks up on itself without you having to make a big ugly craft. Now I'll show you 2 projects, so I guess I do have 3 things in total to talk about that I've made with this. So the first one's already in orbit. So I'll go over to my tracking station and show you Microsat 6 which if anybody gets that reference to Microsat 6, I will send you a cookie. Give me your address, I will have a cookie mailed to you, because it's the most obscure fucking reference I could think of. So, as you can see, pretty standard fare. This little space probe, it's got a nice docking port on the front. I've used small cubic girders to sort of clip things together, so I can make 6 ion engines at the back and one in the middle, so 7 overall. And then I've got 7 big Gigantor arrays. Oh, I just realised this is still throttled up. That was bad. I must have just left it throttled up the last time I was here and forgotten to take it off. So yeah, those, because I've got quite a few ion arrays, they do generate a fair bit of thrust. One on its own doesn't get you much. So this is a pretty cool craft. Now if I click on the resources though, you can see I have a lot of xenon gas. And yet it comes up here as only having one container that has 700 in it, which is what each container normally has, and I've got something like 2,800. So what I've done is basically use that trick and put, I think, about 10, 11, 12, or something like that, xenon gas containers in here. My monoprop containers are also embedded in the same way, and I have an electric charge generator embedded in the same way, just so I've got even more electric charge coming in. And that is how I've made this dinky little probe, which I'm quite pleased with. But that isn't the coolest use of this. I mean, that's quite fun, and that's like a compact, cool little probe, and I really like the look of it for what it does. At some point I might try and get this to the moon. I don't know, I think it might have enough delta V. We'll see, we'll see. But, more importantly, I go back to my space center. You can also use this to stack up, as I showed you, loads of liquid fuel. And with that in mind, I have designed something called the Single Troll to Orbit, STTO, which exploits this glitch to stack loads and loads and loads of fuel onto a tiny, tiny little probe. Now it's a bit of a misnomer because it doesn't quite make it to orbit. If I could stack enough of these little fuel tanks on, it probably would. I think I figured out, running the maths, that if I stack on something like 74, 75 of these fuel tanks, then it would eventually make it to orbit. It has enough fuel to do that. As it is, I can't stack much more than 55, 56 without my computer crashing, and I have a pretty high-end bloody computer. So that is the disadvantage of this glitch, is if you try to exploit it too much, it will wreck your computer. So now this craft, quite simple like I showed you. Little guidance unit, toroidal air spike on the bottom, which is quite an efficient and powerful engine for this size at any rate. That's the benefit of it. And then you can actually see, if I run my mouse along, the little green highlight shows every single toroidal spike. This took me ages, because putting in 54, eventually like the computer starts bugging out and things. So now we have 54 tiny little toroidal. Look, you can even see even on that screen it sort of screws it up a bit. So we've got 54 of these bad boys in. I've got an electric generator embedded again, and a monoprop tank, embedded as well, so that can keep me a bit more stable. I'm going to zoom out a bit because this just launching slows down my computer hugely. I'm going to drop to like 2 FPS or something. So fingers crossed everything goes okay. Yeah, I dropped loads of frames there. Oh god, 8 FPS at the moment, according to Fraps, down to 7. We're somewhere between 7 and 8 FPS. So, this thing burns up. I'm also going to start using the RCS and thrusting up more, because the RCS is quite heavy. I'm not entirely sure if I need it. I want to try and find some way of keeping this thing stable without RCS, because it adds a bit more weight, and I feel like if I can shave enough weight and add enough liquid fuel, I can get this thing into orbit. Which I'm so close to doing, and I just can't right now. It's really annoying. I'm so close. So you'll hear that popping sound. That's happening because there it is again. Every time it sort of burns through one of these and switches to another fuel tank, it makes that popping sound, so sporadically you get this sort of burst, which is kind of cool. I like the effect because it gives it a bit more of an intensity, perhaps, something like that. This thing goes very, very fast as we get high up into the atmosphere. Yeah, maybe I should just remove the monoprop and try this again. I don't know, I feel like there is definitely a way to get this to go straight into orbit. If I had a powerful enough computer, I could just stick loads and loads of fuel tanks on. But you'd need a freaking hardcore setup to pull that off, because it really, really causes a lot of lag. When we re-enter the atmosphere as well, you'll see it sort of pulls apart all the fuel tanks like a concertina. It's pretty weird. So I'm going to leave a bit of RCS just so I can turn us around once we're out of the atmosphere. Although I'm almost certain I don't need it. It might have been a mistake on my part. Maybe I could just go with using the reaction wheels from the control unit. I don't know. You can also see the satellite is like phasing through because we're going so fast. Oh god, look, it's all sort of pulling apart. This is so weird. If I go into the map now, yeah, our apparatus is out at like 200, so I've been a bit inefficient there. We only have 42 fuel left. We've got 3 minutes to apparatus, so I'm going to make my turn now, so that I'm ready when we get to apparatus. I'm already in the right direction to start burning. So, standard fare for getting into orbit, 90 degrees in the direction of the planet's rotation, which is handily shown. We're at a bit of an angle for some reason, which is strange. Oh well. What little hope I had of making it into the orbit probably dies with that. But at any rate, I'm gonna speed it up until we get to the apparatus. Oh god, time warp is gonna wreck this thing. I'm apparently under acceleration, which is strange. See, even time warping with this ship is freaking hard. We're going to get to about 30 seconds and then start the burn. Yeah, fine. Right, so here we go. Let's throttle up. Let's throttle up, game. There we go. So as you can see, it widens out the orbit pretty quickly, but I just don't have enough fuel. Just don't have the fuel there. Oh, so annoying. I mean, it's not really gone that far when I think about it, but I think with really efficient flying, maybe you can... if I maybe use this trick to make a plane or something, I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to exploit this to make a really cool, tiny single stage to orbit, which I know is quite easy anyway, but been trying all day. So that's that little glitch. But that's something of a failure, you know. You don't want to see this. This is just an idea that's sort of half formed in my mind. I might revisit it later. But for now, I'm going to show you something that does work. And this is the Felix Baumkerbal experiment. So, let's load it up. Felix Baumkerbal. Bam. And the concept here, as you can see, is quite simple. This is a tiny parachute for my Kerbal. So, this little construct here consists of an external command seat. That's this. You can see that over on the left. That's what this thing is, now green highlighted. 2 cubic octagonal struts, which are then also bound together by another what's it called? EAS4 easy strut connector thing. I'm going to stick one more then between that and the parachute just to make it double secure. because I had an issue earlier when I was testing this as a parachute sort of jerking around a bit, and I don't like it on it nice and stable. So got that, and then this is a drogue parachute. Now the reason I'm using a drogue is because this is so light that the drogue more than slows me down enough anyway, but it has the advantage of having more drag when it's first opened and exerting less of a sort of jerking force when it eventually fully deploys, because when it fully deploys they sort of generate a lot of G and it can tear something like this apart. I tried it at one point with the normal blue parachute, you can see now on the left, and that just sort of broke immediately off from the construct, and then the Kerbal fell to his death. You live forever in our memories, Kerbals of the past. So I'm using a drogue, and the plan is we get this out of the atmosphere using the launcher you can see beneath it. This lovely construct which just about gets us out. It's a really shit launcher, but it just about does the job that it was designed for, which is to get us into orbit, at which point you can climb out of this pod, sit in the seat and drop. Who are we using? I don't want to use Bill just in case he dies. Let's use this guy. Phil. That's sort of like Felix, that's a close enough name. So Felix Baumkerbal. Let's launch and let's see what we can pull off. So the idea is I'm going to see how fast I can freefall as the Kerbal once he's out. I want to try, not holding out too much hope, but try and hit as much as 800 or 900. I think if I can, I broke 800 earlier, so if I can reach 800 before I pansy out and deploy the chute, which I have by the way toggled to a action group, which is something I'll talk about in a later episode. But here we go. Throttle up, engage SAS, caps lock so that if I make any adjustments they're fine tuned, because this little area at the bottom turns blue, bottom left if you're looking. Stick up the resources tab and space to launch. Wow, that is loud, that is super loud. I've turned down the volume, hold on. I'm going to turn down the volume even more. 1%, I've got everything so low and it's such a loud game though. That should do. Okay, we're back. So everyone, what happened there was I went to change my audio settings so that the aircraft wasn't quite as loud and the game crashed. Technically this is still a beta, but squad, come on, get on it. Can't be having my game crashing every time I want to change the bloody sound. So, let me just try something. Oh, we can board the seat right now. Oh, that's pretty cool. That saves a lot of hassle later on. Okay, so we've got our Kerbal preloaded, Phil Kerman. Brave hero. Gonna start this up. SAS, RCS, I don't think I have any RCS on, but hey, doesn't hurt. And let's launch again. Pow. Okay, that might be a bit better volume this time. God, last time it burnt my ears open. I've got it on like 5% and it's still way too loud. I mean, come on. Damn it, squad. On my new notch. I'll reward whoever can give me that as a t-shirt. Squad, the new notch. Forgot to put caps lock on, so I was overcompensating when I made adjustments. Here we go there. This is fine. I can keep it straight. Yeah, squad, okay, fix the glitches with like changing audio and my screen resolution crashing and shit before you screw up SAS, so that I now need to babysit every single launch because SAS can't keep anything straight anymore. If anyone's got the game recently, it used to be that the autopilot, the SAS thing, the little white symbol you can now see, would just keep everything dead straight. It's like once you activated it, that was it. Come hell or high water, that ship would not bloody move. And then they made loads of changes to it, which made it a bit like easier to understand what it did and a bit easier to sort of control. But it's also just really naff and it no longer does much for your ship. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's useful, but I mean, God. Ain't what it used to be. I probably relied on it too much, to be fair. Like, all my ships, I just were kind of crap designs and then SAS pulled them through, but still. Come on. I'm going to pop out into map view, because the moment we're above the atmosphere, I'm going to stop throttling. I mean, there's no need to be dicking around up there for too long. I might, at some point, install, there's a mod that adds like air balloons and things of that nature to the game, and then recreate this Felix Baumgartner thing a bit more accurately, because he jumped out of a balloon, didn't he? And I think that would be cool to have like a proper setup. I think there's even a mod that gives you just parachutes on your Kerbals, like straight onto them, and I think it would be really cool to sort of install a few mods and like exactly recreate Felix Baumgartner. How is our Kerbal holding up, the intrepid hero? Pretty well, seems like. Smiling. He's an adventurer, this one. Oh no. Wetting himself. Okay, maybe not the maybe not the bold hero. How are we doing for fuel? Plenty left. That should be fine, I hope. Why is it only showing me 2 fuel things? Weird. Okay, anyway. Okay, we're starting to accelerate a bit. No, we're not. Well, we're not accelerating, but we're maintaining speed even though we're in the atmosphere, which is good. This is such a close run thing. This ship just about manages to get up. If it was any less powerful, it would start falling back. I think at one point it does actually start falling slightly, and then it manages to sort of accelerate and get a second wind. But as it stands, we're on course to clear the atmosphere quite handily. Had a nice efficient launch. Haven't used up too much fuel. We're still right above the Kerbal Space Center, which is helpful for this. Relative to the surface, which way am I going? We're slightly that way. That's not ideal, but at least we'll hit land. I should probably turn. You know what? I'm going to turn slightly. Just like that. Yeah, we're out of the atmosphere now. So that in theory I will now land on land, because before I splash down I want to see if this works on the actual turf. We're going to do some litho braking, as the KSP community has taken to calling it. So yeah, we do have fuel left. Okay, we've done pretty well. Now it's time to separate the stages as such. Okay, I need to switch to him. Okay. Oh shit. Felix Baumgartner rover. Switch to. Here we go. Because it was following the command pod for some reason. I think because I clicked control from here. I have to bear that in mind next time. I now have no control over what happens except for deploying this chute, because these external command seats don't have any SAS talk. They don't let you use SAS. They do not do anything. They are kind of purely there for shits and giggles like this. So we are going to re-enter the atmosphere. Well, we just did, and start falling very, very, very fast. Luckily these things are a lot heavier than us, so they aren't slowed down as much by the atmosphere when we'll hit first. I have tried this before. I stupidly had quite a light component on, so after I docked it came back up, hit my Kerbal in the face, destroyed part of the craft, and he died. But the way things are going, this should work. Okay, 50,000 feet now. Hopefully we're gonna hit land. I'd be annoyed if we hit the water again. That's not quite as cool. I feel like, for some reason. That's just arbitrary. That's just me saying that. It's not like there's any actual reason behind that. Where's the moon? I've been looking at the moon all day. There's the moon, up here. Minimus is, I think, on the dark side of Kerbal at the moment, so we won't see that for a while. Hey, at least he has a good view. Here we go, right, 870 meters a second. Can we break 900? Oh god, he's slowing down. Oh, we didn't quite make it to 900. Oh, right, I'm gonna pop the drogue now. Oh crap, I should have waited. Oh well, it'll pop soon on its own. Oh, it hasn't popped. Okay, so we'll wait until we get these sonic effects go away. And now let's pop the drogue. Oof. Okay, right, I hadn't popped it. I thought I'd already deployed it and it was just waiting to hit the atmosphere, but what happened was, I think because I have it tied to an action group, it didn't want to do it when I kept pressing the stage button. But whatever. So that's the end of our free fall. I could probably hold it longer. I want to try this again and do it like right to 1,000 meters and then pop the drogue. Don't know. So we're slowing down still, 40 just over meters a second. At this speed he would still die if he hits the ground, but it will fully deploy long before we hit turf, hopefully, and get us as low as 10 or less meters per second, which he can then survive. There we go. It's fully deployed. Oh, 6 meters per second, and that will get slower hopefully as we get lower and the atmosphere is a bit thicker. So that's worked out well. You might have seen there when the drogue popped, it sort of jumped up a bit and tried to pull away. Luckily we've got these extra struts keeping it in place, and that is why I'm using a drogue, because a bigger parachute generates a lot more force when it deploys and it slows you down a lot more. So it would then, it would take ages because it would slow you down even more, so it'd be going like 1 meter per second, and that's going to take even longer. And B, it can rip you apart. So I should be safe now to physics warp a bit, because we're 2,000 meters up and going 5 meters per second. You can do the maths in your own time to see how long it would take for us to land, but I'm going to accelerate us a bit using this thing in the top corner here, top left. Just across 2,000 meters, we're going at slightly less than 6 meters per second. This should be fine, we should be nice and safe. I will have to come out of physics warp at some point, because I don't want to take a risk and we end up dying. Physics warp has a tendency of ruining my shit when I try to use it. That island in the middle of your screen now, yesterday I kept mucking around with the solar glider we made last episode. I managed to get one that was just about powerful enough to make it, well, it could probably go further, but I landed it on that island because it took so long just to get even there. It took like 40 minutes, and you have to actually be controlling it, you can't just leave it and walk away. I managed to just about land it. I think one wing broke off, but hey, the Kerbal survived, so that was a plus. Any landing you walk away from is a good landing, as we say at Kerbal Space Program. Right, 500 meters now. This is a slightly hilly area, so I'll probably wait until about 200 meters and then come out of physics warp. Okay, maybe before then. We're going to hit soon, I feel like. Lights haven't come on his chute. There we go. Is the lights hitting the ground yet? I can't tell the distances from here. It's really sort of weird. There's no sense of scale. Here we go. Bam. So, parachute cuts when you land. He's been thrown out, but you can still board. Oh, seat is obstructed. No, you can't. Come on, let's try and push this over. Hey. Board the seat. Hehehe. There we go. Leave the seat, and he can go for a walk. He's okay, everybody. Let's try and jump down the hill with our rocket. Face plant every time. Enough of that. So there we go. Free falling from space. I think if I want to get any faster than the, what was it, I was going just under 900 meters per second, I just have to boost up higher out. And then obviously you have more speed as you come in through the atmosphere. That's all that would take. But by next episode I'm going to have a space station up. I won't show you how to put the space station up because, you know, there are better people to go for that. If you want to see how to do that, look at Scott Manley, look at Yogscast Duncan, look at Kurt J. Mack. There are loads of people if you want to see that. But once I've done that, I'm going to stick loads of escape pods on it. And hopefully try and just have like 20 Kerbals shot out of a massive spaceship and all of them like parachute onto Kerbin, because I think that would look really cool. So that's what we're going to do next episode. I also might have a few surprises in store. I'm working on an aquatic device and a few other little ideas that's sort of rolling around in the back of my head that I can't quite get to work. But until then, this has been Largely Mediocre Gaming. I've been Lumper. Join us next time on Kerbal Space Program. Bye bye.